Hello there folks, Andrew Griffiths here, Author Academy time. I want to do a brief discussion over a giant topic, and that is titles and taglines. Now for most of us as authors, that's the title. We'll spend more time trying to get our title right than we will actually writing out the book. But there's two things to kind of consider here. Titles go through trends. You know, you've probably seen the books out there, you know, how to give a F-U-C-K kind of thing. That's become a trend in titles, and now there's a book on all of those kind of elements. Then there were long titles. Now it's one-word titles. It's all kinds of things. Over time, titles, like covers, go through trends. Same with taglines, you know. But I'll stick with titles for starters. We have a boat going in the background. One of the most important kind of trends at the moment, I think, are kind of short and sharp titles. And that's like, you know, the strong two-word, one-word. A friend of mine wrote a great book called Legacy, you know, and she's a estate planning lawyer, Melissa Sloan. Bang, Legacy. You know, it really stands out. It makes it easy to write a book and design a book when it's built around that. You know, I'm working on a book at the moment called Bigger, and that's what the title's going to be, Bigger. And that's a simple, strong kind of approach to a title. So, you know, understand that there are trends, understand that a shorter title is generally more effective. My last book title was Someone's Got to Be the Most Expensive, It May As Well Be You. You know, that's about the world's longest title. But just consider what's really going to make the most impact. Is your book one that needs an explanation, or is it something that's really can be captured in one or two words? There isn't really a right or a wrong, but it's about understanding what ultimately you're going to be able to use better to market the book. The one that, for me, interesting enough, is actually even more important though, is the tagline. And I think that people underestimate the value of a tagline. I get asked this question, do I need a tagline? Is it even really that important? The tagline is critical. And the way to look at the tagline is, it tells you what the reader is going to get out of the book. So what am I going to get out of reading this book? So it needs to be this is your 7 steps to achieve, you know, author fame, or it's going to be a 3-step process to do this, or a lifelong journey to find acceptance. Or as a potential buyer or reader of that book, the tagline is really going to convince me. The title is going to get my attention. The tagline is going to tell me what the book is about. Then I'm probably going to go over, have a look on the back cover. Then I'm going to have a look at the contents page. If any of those steps let us down, and we lose interest, we put the book down. So you get why the title is so important, but the tagline is critical. And if you start looking at taglines of books when you're writing your book, you'll see what I mean. You'll start looking at books that you've got on your shelf that you've had for a while, that are, you know, they're classics maybe. Look at what the tagline says. Don't get overly fancy. Don't try and outsmart people. If it's a process, if it's a 7 parts, if it's a journey into this, start with an obvious tagline, and then you'll work with your editor to refine that. Now, the last thing I'm going to say here, I don't really finalize my title or my tagline until I finish writing the book, generally. My last book, look, I knew what I wanted to call it. It was pretty obvious what it was going to be. So that title was there. But you know, when I wrote a book called The Me Myth, I didn't know it was going to be called The Me Myth until after I'd finished writing it. And I had an agent at the time, Carolyn, and we were sitting down having dinner one night. I said, what are we going to call this bloody thing? And she said, well, there's the E-Myth for business. Why don't you call this The Me Myth? And the premise of the book was, stop living with the world revolving around you. You know, me, me, me. Perfect title, right? So it came at the end, and it took a bottle of red wine or two to get to that, you know, on that side of it. Be considered with your title, be considered with your tagline. Do research, spend time in a bookshop, pick up books and go, wow, I love that tagline. You know, like really that's the key to this. But don't let it stop you from writing your book. Don't let it stop you from, you know, progressing and moving forward with doing the work. Some people say, oh, I can't start writing until I've got the title right. You know, get beyond that. You know, you've got to be able to say, well, you'll probably write something when you're writing your actual book. That'll be your title. So don't kind of get caught up in that. So the big picture of what I'm trying to say here, and I've kind of covered a range of different things. Titles, really important. Try and keep it short and sharp if you can. The tagline to me is just as important as the title. All right, so really think clearly about, am I making my tagline enticing enough for the reader that they're going to see what they actually get out of this. Okay, so and then that's going to encourage them to buy the book and to read the book as well. All right, food for thought there. Go off, come up with your next title, and don't worry if you're like every other author on the face of the planet, you're going to go, oh my God, it's a part of the process that I find the hardest. Seriously, sometimes I think writing the book is easy, finding the title and the tagline is killer. All right, take care, folks. Andrew Griffiths, over and out for now.